We're rolling.
Okay.
Okay, so here we are at the almost your 95th birthday, and so I was wondering if you could share with us what you remember your life to be like as a child growing up, and then how you met Grandpa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we were, I was born on a farm that my folks were living on in um, Lincoln County, Kansas.
Uh huh.
And of course, we were pretty, uh, what do I want to say? Anyhow, we had food, we had clothing because Mother sewed, and we didn't go to town and buy a thing like that, like clothing. She sewed, and uh, of course she didn't make overalls and shirts and things like that, but dresses and nighties and all those things that people need. Anything that she could sew, she did that. There were 5 of we kids at home, and the 2 older girls were a good help to Grandma at that time. And uh, I didn't go to school in Lincoln County, Kansas, but the 3 older children did. We lived there until I was about 5 years old, but I do remember quite a few things that we enjoyed over the years. We moved to Osborne County, Kansas, onto a farm, and we lived there all of my schooling life, and all of our children, our brothers and sisters, went to school there in Osborne County. One of the things that we really enjoyed was the basketball games. I played basketball, and the 2 older girls played basketball. Harvey was not really a person that was well most of the time, and so he didn't get to play. He played for fun, but he didn't play on the team. I graduated from Covert High School, as well as all of my brothers and sisters did, because we lived about 4 miles from Covert, where the school was, and it was a lovely school, and we had most of our schooling there. I played basketball. My 2 sisters played basketball too. We were on the teams each year that we were in school, and we were just real enjoyable. It was really enjoyable for us as we played basketball. After I graduated, I took the examinations that a teacher needed to take before she could teach. I took that, and thank goodness I passed. And so I spent 4 years teaching grade school, and I taught in a lovely community, and the school was beautiful. It was a beautiful brick school, and they kept it so nice, kept it taken care of, so that we had a good school. And I had at one time 12 pupils, all grades, and then those 2 kids graduated, and so then from then on I just had 7 grades to teach. But I taught for 4 years in that same school. Then Dad, or Grandpa, and I married in
How did you?
April of 39.
1939. And how did you meet Grandpa?
I met him in high school, and we dated in high school my senior year, and he was already out of school. He was 1 year ahead of me, and so he was already out of school, and he had gotten a job at Paradise, which was about 15 miles south of where my folks and I live.
Mm-hmm.
And we dated for we dated the last year that I was in high school, and it was a little while before, most of the time I was teaching. We were dating at that time too, and then we got married in 39, in the spring of 39. I finished my teaching of 4 years at a week before we got married. So we got married just right after I finished teaching that year. We lived close to Paradise that first year that we were married, and Dad, Harold, kept his job there with I've forgotten what they called him, the fellow that he worked for, but he worked with
Was he a mechanic? Was he a mechanic?
Well, yeah, he was kind of a mechanic. I mean, he could do that. He took 1 or 2 different courses, short courses, to learn as much as he could about what he was going to be doing, so he could do a good job of it, and he did. We lived close to Paradise where he was working the first year we were married, but he wanted to be a farmer, and that's what I wanted, to be a farmer's wife. So we decided that if we could find a place that we could rent, that's what he wanted to do, and that's what I wanted to do. So we rented our first, we rented the place, the farm, for 4 years. But and he worked with his dad those 4 years, and but we had rented this place that we lived on, which was about 4 miles south of Covert, Kansas. So we moved from Paradise to this house, and Dad then quit his job there in Paradise, and we, of course, used our farm, and Dad Heitschmidt lived about 6 or 7 miles from where we were living.
Mm-hmm.
And when we moved to that farm that we rented, then he quit the work at Paradise, and we began to farm then. And we farmed sort of connection with Earl's folks, because they lived about 6 miles from us at that time. But we then, after we decided definitely that this was what Dad wanted to do, then we would, get started with farming. And so we rented a place fairly close to Harold's folks, and that way we could help Dad Heitschmidt, and we could that would help us, because we could use some of the machinery that Harold's folks had already. But we moved in within about 2 miles of Harold's folks, and lived in a little house that well, it was 3 rooms, and it was in pretty bad shape, but we cleaned it all up, the little house all up, and then padded the flooring with newspapers because the flooring was not too good. And so we done that, and then laid new linoleum on all of the rooms, which was 3. And then then we built a porch, enclosed porch on the back part of the house, and so that I'd have a place to have a washing machine, and we'd have a place to take off your overshoes when you come in from the doing chores and all that stuff. So we lived there for 4 years. Roger was born in 41, and no, that's not right. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's 41.
he was born while we lived there, and then while we were still there at that living in that little house, Rodney and Elaine were born, and so we had our family then all with us at that time. What else do I want to say? We lived there at that place that was going to be our home and a place for our living. And so we built a new home, a new brick home, because the one that we lived in, that was just a little shanty really, and with 3 children, it was really not a lot of room for expanding. So we built a brick home in, I guess I can't remember just for sure what year. But anyway, we lived in that little house about almost 5 years. And then by that time we had the house built, and we had planted, what do they call it, trees.
Shelter belt?
Shelter bed. We called a shelter belt. And that was to the north of the area where we built and where the barns and so on was. What else do you want to know?
Some of the first crops that you raised a lot of wheat, right?
Yes,
What else did you raise?
We raised a lot of wheat, but Dad pretty well cut down on the wheat and planted milo.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a good crop because we had a big bunch of sheep. We had a big flock, about 350 sheep, and we also had cattle.
Mm-hmm.
And we bought this farm, which was about 4 miles maybe from Harold's folks. That way Harold could use some of the machinery, and Dad could also use part of our machinery, and it would save them each one from buying like 2 combines and 2 something else,
Mm-hmm.
But they worked together.
Yeah.
And so we helped Dad Heitschmidt, and he helped Dad Harold too. We raised quite a few sheep, breeding sheep, and then in the spring we would sell them. They bought them from Missouri. What was it? Do you remember the name of the town? I don't remember it just right now.
Stockton?
Just the west part of Missouri. But we shipped them. They had big trucks, and they shipped the lambs in the spring. And then we take care of the ewes all winter, all summer, through the winter, and then again in February we had they had lambs again. So every year we sold lambs.
Mm-hmm.
We had quite a few cows, but not anywhere near as many cattle as we had sheep. February was the month that the lambs were made their appearance,
Mm-hmm.
and so to take care of the lambs, to be sure that we saved every one of them that we possibly could, Harold and I took turns going to the shed, right, through the night. We set the alarm to go off every 2 hours, and 1 hour he would go to the shed. We had built a big sheep shed, and we put the ewes in there at night, and then he would go out to see, about the lambs, whether there was any, and then the next 2 hours I would go, and he would sleep a little bit, and so we done that all through February.
Wow.
We were glad when February was gone, but we had our lamb crops, and we saved practically every lamb that way, because we would take the lamb that was born and carry, had it in our hands, and we'd carry it to the little pens that Harold had made all the way around that shed in the inside, and we bedded it down at night and all that. And then when there would be a lamb or 2 lambs or 3 lambs, when you go out, you would pick up those lambs and go to one of those little
Pins.
what do you call them?
Little pens.
Little pens.
Yeah.
And of course, the mama would certainly, follow us as we had our lambs in our hands, and we'd take those lambs and go to the shop and the little pen, and she'd go right in there with them, and then we'd just close it, and that way her little lambs wouldn't get, tracked down by the whole group.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So we saved a lot of lambs that way. What else do you want?
Well, we're down to about 2 minutes left
Oh,
already.
oh my goodness.
I know your faith played a big role in your life. Can you share how the Lord got a hold of you, and how important that was in your life and in Grandpa's life?
Well, I joined the church that was close to my folks' home where we kids were, and we all went to church at the Victor Brethren Church, and we, of course, all the kids joined the church there and gave our heart to Christ there. And then, because it was closer to the Enterprise Church than it was to the Victor Church, after Harold and I were married and we lived at our farm, so we changed and went to, the Victor Church, they closed their church because they just didn't have enough young people to come. So we went to Enterprise, and that's where all of our family joined the church and became Christians. And we worked in that church, and that's where we went all the time that our kids were with us. Well, in fact, as long as that church was there, it too, like a lot of the churches and things, schools and everything closed because, there wasn't enough people to keep it going. But we went to Enterprise